All right, welcome everybody. Great to have you here. We're going to get started in just a minute. Want to make sure that everyone can see and hear me okay. We've got a few people hopping in now, and we're just about to get going. Hi, Christina. Great to see you. All right. Welcome, welcome. Now we've got a couple people just joining, so we're just about to get rolling if you missed that part already.
Hello,
Hi, great to see you.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Very excited to be in this meeting.
Excellent. I'm Crystal. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, I'm Shaima.
Awesome. Great to have you, Shaima. We're just about to get started, just letting everybody get in here. And yeah, typically these sessions are pretty interactive as well. So if you have any questions, by all means, feel free to chime in.
That's very good. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Great to have you all here. I always love to chat with you guys and see some familiar names and faces and meet all you new folks too. So we're just about to get started, but I'd love to hear from you guys. Feel free to, if you want to say hi, or in the chat, if that's more comfortable for you, feel free to give us a little introduction. Let me know where you're tuning in from. So I'm Crystal. I'm in Newfoundland, Canada. Oh, we've got some more people heading in here.
I'm from Ontario, Ottawa.
Okay, awesome. Great to have you. I was just in Ottawa area last week. I got home on
Uh,
Sunday. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday. So,
how do you find it here?
oh, great. My grandmother lives just outside of Ottawa, but it was very hot.
It is, yeah. In summer it's hot. In winter it's very cold as well.
Yeah, the extremes. All right, so we'll get rolling here. Thank you guys for being here. Again, feel free to say hello in the chat there. What we are talking about today is peak leads for peak season. So we are in the middle of summer here. We've got hopefully some good couple of months left. But whether you are in a position right now with your company where you're not as busy as you could be or you think that you should be, or maybe you're proactively planning for the year ahead and what you're going to do beyond peak season. Wherever you're at with that, this is definitely a great session for you. So, this is our monthly marketing masterclass. We do these every month. So, you'll definitely get emails from us about future upcoming sessions. We'll have one in August as well. But we do this as a way to keep you guys informed, help you grow your business, and let you know what's working for our clients in the heating and cooling industry. So, whatever the situation for you, what we are talking about today is really getting a steady volume of leads coming through, making sure that you're proactively getting in front of people and you're attracting a steady volume of leads so that you know if things get slow, you can crank things up and make sure that homeowners are coming through to you. So, a little bit about yours truly. If this is your first time joining us for our webinar today, my name's Crystal Hobbs. I live in Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada. This is my husband, Brandon, and Buddy the dog, who sometimes makes a little appearance, certainly in a lot of my videos. But ultimately, I've been running reflective marketing now for a little over 10 years, and we started because we really wanted to help local businesses grow. And what I love most about the heating and cooling industry is that we have real, authentic, salt of the earth type people, and I love to see you guys succeed. So we also run a podcast called Beyond the Tools where we really have the privilege of talking to so many incredible experts in the industry to help companies in the trades grow. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. And a lot of the things that we talk about there is something that we lend to the strategies that we use with clients. And Magdalena can affirm this as well. Nothing makes us happier than to see our clients succeed and grow. So, a lot of what we're going to talk about today are the exact strategies that we use with our heating and cooling clients to help them succeed. And one example of that is Mitch, who is the owner of Heat Pump Solutions. Heat Pump Solutions has been a long-term client of ours. We've been working with them since 2019. And when they originally came to us, they were at a place where Mitch really wanted to grow and expand his team. And they were finding the competition was a lot heavier. They weren't getting the same flow of leads coming through. And ultimately, to keep the new salesperson busy, to keep their technicians busy, they needed to be able to double their number of installs. So what we were able to do with what I'm going to show you here today, what we were able to do was double their number of daily installs in just 4 months, which took them from 150,000 average monthly revenue to 300,000 in average monthly revenue. And that was years ago, and the sky has truly been the limit. Since that time, they've quadrupled their team size. They've opened a second location, and it's been really incredible and gives us all the warm and fuzzies to see how they've been able to grow and succeed. So, all of what we're going to talk about today is about really getting your business to a place that you've got steady leads coming through. So I know we've got a lot of names here, some people just joining. Welcome. Really great to have you guys. I'm a chatty gal. If you have not been to one of our webinars before, I love to hear from you guys because ultimately I'm here to help you. So let me know, how are you finding the market right now? How is your lead flow? Are things super busy and where you want them to be? Or are you in a place where you could definitely have some more leads coming in? So if you want to unmute, awesome. Otherwise, if you want to pop a note in the chat, just let me know. Are you flat out? That's what we say here in Newfoundland. I don't know if that's a common term or not, but super busy. Are you flat out? Or, things are a little slower. What's going on right now? Okay, we could definitely need more leads. Awesome. Well, you're in the right place. Christina, same thing. Use more leads. Cool. Adam says 75 degrees in Los Angeles County. Crazy. Whew. All right. I imagine that affects things. Okay, cool. So good to see, most of us are in a place that we could use some more leads. And I am curious where most of your leads are coming from right now. Is this word of mouth, Google, Facebook, door to door? What's working well for you guys? Okay, so Adriana says Facebook, Christina, word of mouth, Shaime, lead bull. Ooh, not familiar with that one. Valerie says referrals. Adriana says no door to door in Ontario now. Yeah, that's absolutely true. We've seen a lot of clients that previously relied really heavily on door to door. And in a lot of places, that's much more restricted now. Joel says word of mouth, Google, organic search. Okay, we just launched Facebook ads 2 days ago. Good. I hope that what we share here today is going to help you tweak things and get it even better. Adam says referrals, Google My Business, some marketed PMs on Facebook. Ooh, interesting. Cool. Love to hear more about that. Maybe as we go. All right, awesome. So good to hear. Okay, so some of you are doing some Facebook ads already, which is cool. A lot of you, yeah, word of mouth, referrals, Google, some of those other sources. So when we think about the residential HVAC market or any market, but particularly here, this is called a buyer's pyramid, and it basically describes how people are shopping or looking for services. So what we see is that at any given point, there are about 3% of the market that is actively buying now. So these are your people who are going, they're calling up, they're looking for referrals, they're searching. Those are your people that are looking right now. You've got, between the 7% who are open to buying, kind of in that middle zone, but not actively right now. And then you've got, this 30% not thinking about it, 30% don't think they're interested. So if your referrals, your Google, you're essentially capturing that 3% of people who are actively buying now. But how do you get to this other, 30 to 60% of the market who are not in that position? So that's really where Facebook and social media comes into play. And our system specifically is about getting in front of homeowners proactively because you're not waiting for them to search for you. You're not waiting for them to ask a buddy, hey, who do you know who can install a new AC for me? This is a way that you have a lot more control over your marketing and the ability to show up in front of homeowners in your service area without needing to wait around for the phone to ring. So that's what we're going to get into today. So when we think about social media, of course, it's such a prevalent part of modern life, right? Most people are on social media. So 73% of Americans, 79% of Canadians are active social media users. So they're checking in regularly. And what we see from a demographics perspective is that YouTube is obviously a huge player. Facebook, 81% of social media users are on Facebook in both Canada and the US. So it is still a major player. I know sometimes, with TikTok and all these other platforms that are new and shiny and exciting, but Facebook is still your number one player. And of course, Meta owning Facebook and Instagram, if you're active on those channels, if you're advertising there, you are reaching a huge portion of the population. So what we're going to talk about today specifically is why most HVAC Facebook ad campaigns crash and burn. So we see it time and time again. I think the biggest complaints that we get from our clients before they work with us is that, they're not getting results there or they're getting a bunch of tire kickers. So we're going to break down some of these issues and show you how you can do this in a way that will really work for your business. Second, we're going to talk about the 5 crucial elements of a scalable ad campaign. So by that, I mean something that will get in results now, but you can also start to increase the results that you get from that ad campaign. So we're going to get a little technical there and show you what's working right now across our client base. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how to measure and benchmark your results. So what you should expect in terms of cost per lead, how much it should cost you to get into somebody's home so that you know where you need to be spending, or if there's something that's not working, you can see how that's benchmarked across the industry. So give me a little yes or a visual thumbs up to let me know if that sounds good. And again, ultimately, this is all for you. So if you have specific questions that you want to make sure that I addressed today, please feel free to, again, pop those in the chat. Or if we're running through something, you have a question, unmute anytime. Happy to have a chat about it. All right. So ultimately, we want Facebook to be a place where you don't feel like you're throwing away money, but it's actually something that you are seeing a return from that investment. All right, so I got a bit of feedback from you guys there. I know some of you are using Facebook ads. I know Shaimei mentioned that you just launched ads 2 days ago, so that's awesome. So I'm curious how many of you are actually actively running ads on Facebook and Instagram right now. Feel free to give me a yes, a no, not yet in the chat, just to get a bit of a gauge there. Okay, cool. We've got a few not yets. We've got some yeses. Got in the past, post, not ads. Adriana actively, but not every day running. Hey, Adam, not happy with my results. Okay. Mark, not currently. Cool. Okay, awesome. So I think we've seen some of the feedback there already, but why aren't you running them right now if this is something that you've paused? Okay, so we've got a few people, yeah, not happy with the results, or you're not seeing that return. Okay, so that's a pretty common piece of feedback there. Christina said had issues in running my first ads. Okay, so we've heard it all before, right? All of these challenges, absolutely valid, very common. So we often hear, not seeing the results, difficult to navigate or not sure how to use it, um, inconsistent results, no conversions, or only tire kickers. So this is all very, very common. And what we're going to show you is really how to fix those issues in your campaigns. This is all part of our full HVAC lead driver process where it's really about using Facebook and Instagram as a lead generator for you. If you want some help, you want to skip ahead, get some help implementing this specifically in your business, you can book a free strategy call with us. I won't dig into that any further, but just want to let you guys know that that is available to you if you need some extra help. But we're going to cover all of this, exactly how we run this with clients in our training today. So let's get into it. So the first part, why most HVAC Facebook ad campaigns crash and burn. So a lot of the common issues that we see in client campaigns often comes down to not having enough creative to work with or not structuring your campaign properly. There's a whole bunch of nuances, of course, here that come into play, but ultimately, we're going to simplify how you can run your ad campaigns so that you don't have to worry about these. And this is exactly what we did with our client, the Chill Brothers, that are based in Texas. When we started working with them, their lead costs were quite high and all over the place. And, in a very short period of time, running through the testing process and what we're going to show you here, we were able to drop cost per lead by 60%. So let's dig into how we do this and all the elements of an ad campaign that actually performs and gets you a return on investment. Okay, so the first piece of this is your offer. We're going to run through each of these specifically so that you've got some ideas going into your advertising with how to make sure that your ads are driving leads and you're seeing the best possible leads at the best possible cost. So the first part, and I think this is where a lot of businesses struggle, is having a compelling offer. So when we talk about an offer, what I mean by that is some sort of incentive or promotion. So if we think about, again, that buyer triangle, we're looking at people that are not actively shopping. So it's more like the scenario of, my AC's been a bit on the fritz. It's not working as well. I'm seeing my power bills high, but it's like this little nugget in the back of my head. And when I see your company show up in my feed with something compelling, that's going to get me off the fence and say, you know what? I need to prioritize this now. That's what we're aiming to do. So you want to think about what's going to get your perfect customer to raise their hand and say, yes, I want to learn more. Here's my information. So one of the biggest things that we see in the trades, of course, is having a free estimate or free consultation. This is not something that's super compelling because it has basically become standard in the industry. So if you're doing a free in-home appointment, a free estimate, that's not going to be enough to get someone to say, okay, here's my phone number, my email, let's set up a time. Generally, of course, financial incentives always work well. So if you're fortunate enough to be in a market where there is some sort of government rebate program, I know that for my Canadian people here, that really varies based on the markets. We are seeing really good rebate programs still in Atlantic Canada and in BC. I know Ontario has some rebates. They're not as good as they used to be, but there are still some there. So that'll obviously differ depending on the market. But you can also even make your own rebate programs or get a little bit creative with things as well. We've seen some clients do that very, very successfully. Okay, if rebates aren't an option, another thing that you're probably offering already is financing. So letting people know that it can be low monthly payments or, no payments until 2026 or for just $30, $50, $100, $200 per month, whatever that number may be, trying some of those things in your ad campaigns to, again, it's in the back of their head. And then they see something like, oh, it's not as expensive as I thought, or oh, I might actually be able to afford this now instead of waiting until next year. That's how you can get someone to say, yes, let's chat. Okay, educational offers. We see this sometimes. So what I mean by that is, for example, something that worked really well for some of our clients in the past was doing something like a heat pump buying guide. That can work really well. And the only caveat to that is that you will often get a really high volume of leads. So you have to be prepared to be able to follow up with those people and qualify from there. So for most of our clients, we find this doesn't really work. Yes, it does bring in leads, but you're not seeing those transform into appointments and sales. And the way I always look at it is it's really easy to get cheap leads. But what's most important is that you're not only getting leads at a reasonable cost, but they're moving further down the sales process. So that's what we care about the most. So compelling offer. So you want to make that front and center in your ad campaigns. Make sure it's very, very clear, looking at your ad copy, looking at the creative, the headline. You've got your offer front and center. Okay, the second piece where we see a lot of HVAC companies go wrong when it comes to their ad campaigns is their targeting. And I get this question all the time, like, how do I target the right people on Facebook ads? Now, years ago, I would have told you the more specific you can get, the better, and you had all these options for adding interests. I want to reach people who are interested in energy efficiency and home improvement and gardening and real estate and whatever else. What performs best now is leaving that as broad as possible. So you want to give Meta a lot of flexibility to find your perfect customer. The reason for this is that the algorithms have gotten so powerful. Most websites have Facebook's tracking code installed. It gets all that information, plus all the searching and people spending hours and hours on social media every day. So Meta's smart enough that it doesn't need your input on how to target the right people. So what you want to do there is broad targeting is what we call it. And Christina, yes. So what if they are not in your working area? Perfect question. So you do want to define your geographic targeting. So for example, if you served, in this example, if you serve the Boston area, you want to put in Boston and the radius around that you serve. So that's fine. You can get specific from a geographic perspective, but otherwise you want to leave it fairly open. You might put a minimum age, that sort of thing, but otherwise leave it alone. You don't need interest. You don't need lookalike audiences. You don't need to do retargeting or any of these fancy concepts that might have worked years ago. So the bigger and broader you can get your audience, the better, as long as Christina mentioned, they are in your service area. So give me a thumbs up or let me know in the chat if that makes sense or if that's something that you can do with your campaigns that you're not doing already. Love to hear that. Okay, the only caveat to this is that depending on your offer, you may need to declare what's called a special ad category. So Facebook has regulations in place to make sure that we're not discriminating in our ad campaigns. And of course, nobody sets out to do that. But if you're doing something like financing, what that is in Facebook's eyes is a credit opportunity. So because of that, we want to declare what's called a special ad category to say that, yes, we are doing something in the category of credit. The reason for that is that if you don't do that, Facebook may end up rejecting your ads as a best case scenario, or as a worst case scenario, you could get put in the dreaded Facebook jail. So what I mean by that is we've seen companies get their ad accounts shut down, their pages disabled, all sorts of really bad things can happen if you're bending Facebook's rules. Okay, so to avoid that, if you are doing financing, just make sure that when you set up your campaign that you're declaring special ad category for credit. All that will do is there will be certain limitations with your targeting. So you can't change the age range, for example, and you can't get as specific with your geo-targeting. So you can't target specific zip codes or postal codes. But otherwise, you're pretty open. And again, we do find results are best when your targeting is fairly broad anyway. So that's the only caveat that you need to be aware of when it comes to targeting. Make sure if you're doing financing, you've got that special ad category declared. Okay, the third thing that we see is often a challenge and why your ad campaigns might not be working is creative. Most of the time, we don't see enough creative happening in an account. So if you're kind of stuck with, okay, well, what do I use in my ads? There's a few different things that you can test out. So photos, videos, graphics. Try to have different content types to see what really performs best in your market. So we always want to have a bit of a variety there. Second is mixing up the length of your ad copy. So by that, I mean the primary text, the message that shows up in your ad. So you can try some ads that just have like one line and then others that have like multiple paragraphs going on because you'd often be surprised by what works. So it's good to have a variety there. And then test out different headlines. All of that gives Facebook a lot of different creative to work with to make sure that it's continuously getting new good quality leads for you. And you're not finding that your ad works for a few days or maybe a couple weeks, and then your results start to crash, and suddenly you're not getting leads anymore and you don't know why. If you want a bit of a general rule of thumb, we recommend having at least 3 ads running for any particular campaign at one time. So you want to make sure you're giving Meta lots to work with. And now, with all the AI additions that they've made to the platform, they are often prompting you with suggestions for different text variations, imagery. The video editing tools on there are fairly good as well. So Meta is trying to make it easier for you to do a lot of different creative too. So use that to your advantage. So to give you some examples, again, you might have a video, you might have an image that's purely text-based. This is something we call an ugly text ad. So if you're looking at that and being like, oh, like how unprofessional and hideous. Yes, it's done that way entirely on purpose because it does stand out in the newsfeed. And this is honestly one of the top performing ads that we see for a lot of clients is just having this colored background with some text on it. So you don't need to be super fancy to be able to get good results. Graphics, if you have great photos of team members, installs that you've done, all of that works really well. Now, I will say the biggest lever, if you take nothing else away from this training today, the biggest lever you can pull to get better lead flow and better cost per lead is having video creative. We're at a point where it's a non-negotiable for our clients that we work with. We need to have video content because it makes such a dramatic impact to your results. So to give you an example, this was a client that we launched in April. And you'll see here the first period, 2-week period here from April 27th to May 12th, their cost per lead was really, really high. So for one campaign, 139, another campaign, 406. Once we were able to introduce video content, we were able to drop their cost per lead by 57.6%, which is huge. So if you're not doing video in your company, you are missing out on really good, really cheap leads from social media. And I get it, video is intimidating. It's hard to put yourself out there. And I know a lot of us didn't start businesses so that we had our phone in front of our face all day long. But if you want to make a significant impact to your results from your ad campaigns, you need to be doing video. We have a whole other masterclass training available on video content specifically, so I won't go super deep on this, but just shoot us a message if you'd like a link to that because that will really, really help you to succeed on Meta. Great question. If you have video creative, do you need to add photo and graphics? Ultimately, it comes down to results. We typically like to also have photos and graphics because sometimes certain imagery will outperform video. I would say, like, if you could only do one thing, I think video is most important, but I would also try photos and graphics so you've got a bit of a variety. And again, you're giving Meta more to work with to be able to drive good results for you. Great question. Okay, so giving you some specific ideas of creative that you can easily do. Take photos, videos of, a unit in the home, outside the home. A lot of this stuff is a regular part of your workday anyway. If you're taking photos to add to your CRM for your team, you can use those as well. And we've often gotten into a client's, House Call Pro or Service Titan account and like pulled photos of real installs. So That's always an option for you. So any of those unit photos, again, I know to us oftentimes it looks boring and why would a homeowner want that? But they really perform well, which again, shocking, but that's why you've got to try some different things out. Anything with people, so if you have a tech who can take a selfie, a team member, any of those real photos, doesn't have to be professional, can just be a quick snap on a phone. Those do really, really well. What we call a UGC style video, so that means user generated content, basically a testimonial video. If you've got somebody, a great customer who's willing to, say like, hey, I'm here with ABC Heating and Cooling. They just installed this new air conditioner for me. Super excited. Everything looks good. We're going to be able to drop my energy bill, blah, blah, blah. That stuff does really well. You can experiment a little with AI generated photos. I will say very hit and miss. Sometimes they do really well. Sometimes they absolutely crash and burn. So you need to play around with those sorts of things. Multiple photos of installs, doing a before and after, if you're doing a replacement, all of these things. Now I will also show you quickly. Has anybody seen Facebook's ad library before? Let me know in the chat here. I'm just going to pull it up. Okay, cool. Some of us have seen this. So what you can do is you can actually see the ads, any ads that are live. There is a way to do this specifically from a Facebook page as well. If we've got a little time at the end, I can show you guys that. But if you go to Meta's ads library, so I'll pop this in the chat as well, but it's just facebook.com/ads/library. You can put in a keyword, a country, and it will show you ads that are running related to that. Now, for whatever reason, this time I'm getting this weird page that is not related. So let's try another term and see what we get here. Okay. Adam says, have a hard time finding a good company to shamelessly poach ideas from. Yeah. So yeah, you got to play around with the keywords a little bit, but you can see here, this is a company that's showing up here. That's an actual heating and cooling company. This is what that looks like. Now, what you don't know, of course, is whether, yeah, absolutely. Great suggestion. What you don't know, of course, is what the results are, but it does give you some ideas of what you could possibly do. And if you do see that an ad's been running for a long time, like obviously this one was launched today, so we don't know. But if you see something that was launched a month, 2 months, 3 months ago, in all likelihood, unless they've set it up and totally forgotten about it, which is possible, but if they're doing a lot of advertising and they have an ad that's been running for a long time, that's usually a good indicator that they're seeing really good results from that ad. So that'll help you to figure out some ideas of what you can do. All right. The fourth out of fifth piece that we see a lot of challenges with is the form. So if you're having troubles with out of service area leads or what you would typically call tire kickers, though I always challenge you to define what makes them a tire kicker. But if you're getting lead quality issues, and oftentimes, honestly, service area is probably the biggest one that we see that, you're getting leads from another province or state totally unrelated to your service area. The form is often where the problem lies. So the form, this is a make or break for your campaign. You always want to balance it because if you have too few questions, then yes, you'll get a bunch of tire kickers, a bunch of people that are unqualified leads. But if you have too many questions, it's cumbersome for somebody to fill out. They're like, I'm not going to bother. And that's going to lose you some opportunities. So it's always a bit of a balance when it comes to your form. So what you want to ask yourself is, what do you absolutely need to know to qualify a lead? So think about what's most important to you. Typically, what we advise to get that balance essentially of quality and quantity, typically what we suggest that you ask is, of course, name, phone number, email. You want your basic contact information, city or town, so that you can check the service area, and then make sure that they're a homeowner. Those are kind of the basics that you want to do. So if you're running instant forms or lead forms on Facebook, you can add those questions in. If you're running to a landing page, which is typically what we find really helps to improve lead quality, so that's what we do with all of our client campaigns, we'll add a question to make sure that their home is located in the service area. So we actually have a little map of your service area so people can see whether they live within it or outside of it. So making sure that you really use the form to make sure that you're getting the right people. Okay. And the final piece is budget. I know we all, if you're brand new to social media ads, you probably don't really know what you should be spending on there. So I want to give you some insight into how you can think about budget and also talk about what we're typically seeing. So if you're thinking about, okay, what do I need to spend on my social ads? The first piece you want to think about is, how much do you think it'll cost you to get a lead? And then you want to start your ad spend ideally at 2 to 3 times that cost. So for simple math, if you think it'll cost you $50 to get a lead, you want to spend at least 100 to 150 a day. Okay? So that way you are getting enough volume coming in so that you can see what's actually working. Oftentimes I find that a lot of times we're spending too little money. So if you're doing boost posts, for example, it'll often ask you the timeline that you want to run. It'll be, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, and then you're giving a total budget. But if you're spending, $10 over 5 days, that's $2 a day. If it costs you $50 to get a lead, you'd have to run that ad for a really long time to be able to get that result. So this is an easy way to think about the budget that you want to spend. Okay, and then once you're running, Facebook will give you, you'll see a chart there. It will give you a bit of an idea of what you can expect in terms of lead costs. Once you've got some data running, you will see a little chart there that'll help you. Now, if you've been running ads for a long time and things are successful, you're at a point that, okay, we're ready to scale things up. This is where I find a lot of companies run into trouble, because it's not a matter of, okay, this is working really well, I'm just going to dump a bunch of money into it. It needs to be a little more strategic, because it's easy to throw Meta's algorithm off. It's easy to get to a place where suddenly you've added budget and now your results are starting to decline. So it's not always, first of all, results are not always linear. So if you're getting 50 leads at your current budget and you want to get 100, doubling it will not necessarily get you there. It needs to be a little bit more gradual in terms of making sure that you maintain that consistent performance. So, general rule of thumb, if you're going to increase your budget, is to slowly scale it up by adding 20% more budget per day. That's a sustainable way so that Meta's algorithm isn't totally thrown off when you start to put more money into it. You can also, instead, if you want to make more of a dramatic increase, you can build out new campaigns, new ad sets, so that you're adding budget to something new, but keeping your existing where it is. So that's a good, safe way to be able to scale up your campaigns. This stuff is a little bit more advanced, so if this is totally over your head, don't worry about it. You're probably not at that point yet, but this is for some of you who I know have been running campaigns for a while and just not necessarily getting the results, or you're at that point where you've kind of tapped out your performance. So those are a few pointers there. Okay, so that is essentially the 5 pieces that we see that are crucial to good performance from Facebook ads, and also where a lot of people end up making little mistakes that end up tanking your results. So hopefully that gave you some good ideas for how to get better performance from your ad campaigns. The last part that I want to touch on with you guys is how to measure and benchmark your results, because a lot of times we don't know what good looks like. So this is just to give you some ideas on what you might see from your ad campaigns. Okay, so a few benchmarks here in terms of results. Typically, with the caveat that, of course, some markets are going to be ultra competitive. So, for example, we had a client in Las Vegas before where costs were crazy. It was just an ultra competitive market, and they would have never seen cost per lead at $100. But assuming, again, benchmarks across Canada and the US, typically we're looking at an average cost per lead of $50 to $100. That's a really good cost per lead. Generally, we want to see at least 20% of leads going to a book job. So that's actually a good reminder there for me to define a lead. So by a lead, I mean somebody who has filled out that form and said, here's my name, here's my email, here's my phone number, city, town, that basic info, that initial outreach. Okay. Typically, you're seeing that at 50 to 100. You want at least 20% of leads to be going to a book job. That's the bare minimum. You can also track that against your average booking rate, what you're seeing across all sources and that sort of thing. But as at a floor, you want to see at least 20%. And then generally, we see cost per appointment, in-home appointment, being under 200. So those are some benchmarks. I am curious for those of you that are running ads, are you seeing these numbers, or where have things been for you guys so far? If you want to chime in the chat. Okay, so those are some benchmarks that you can look at. Again, you may be an ultra competitive market. Typically, I see that being like huge cities. Most of the time, you're probably looking at that $50 to $100 mark. And ultimately, these are benchmarks, right? So you may find that if you've got a really amazing offer, or maybe you're doing a ton of video creative, you're getting good feedback there, all of those things can affect your results and give you options to be able to bring down your costs. But those are some ideas. Okay, cool. Good. All right, so those are some benchmarks to give you an idea of what good looks like. But ultimately, you want to benchmark against yourself. So make sure that you're tracking these numbers with your campaigns so that you know what your averages are, and then you can see if something is well exceeding that or performing really, really strongly, and you can invest more money there. All right, so with all of that, you, my friends, are off to the races with your ad campaigns. You know what's going to make it work. You know what you're looking for in terms of end results and how to be able to scale those results. Okay. Now, I'd be crazy not to mention that the follow-up is also a huge piece. I know we're talking more on the ad side of things, but you could get leads all day. And if you're not nurturing them, if you're not moving those leads to appointment, then all of it's for naught. Cheap leads are easy. Getting those leads to convert is the next piece of the puzzle. Okay, so you want to make sure you're calling your leads within 5 minutes. I know we've got probably some CSRs and stuff on here, some salespeople. You guys know this stuff. Speed to lead is the name of the game. You want to make sure you're calling multiple times. Automate your text and email follow-up. We even have an appointment setting bot that we use with our clients and having an online calendar so that it makes it as easy as possible for that lead to move to an in-home appointment. So use technology to your advantage there. And my CSR and salespeople, make sure you're on the phone, you're calling those leads as quickly as possible. Okay, so all of this is, again, what we do as part of our full system, but truly these are the pieces that we use to make sure that our clients get results, and this is absolutely something that you can do as well. So everything we talked about here today, looking out for some of those common reasons your ad campaigns are working, going through what a good campaign looks like. So making sure you have a compelling offer, you're using broad targeting, declaring a special ad category where needed. You've got a form that is weeding the wrong people out, but not having too many questions. You're using a variety of creative. You're getting meta enough to work with. You're doing video. You've got a budget that is getting at least enough leads coming in per day. And we talked about some of the benchmarks that you should be looking for. So I hope that gave you guys some ideas to be able to really make this work for your company. If you need some extra help, if you want to sit down and we can talk about how to actually implement this in your business, how you can set this up on your end, feel free to book a free strategy call with us or reach out anytime if you have some questions. Again, we run these free webinars every month, so we'll be in touch about the event for August, and you'll also get a replay. So if you had to step out or anything like that, you'll be able to watch that on YouTube later as well. I will take any questions if anybody wants to talk through any of this, but really appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you next time, if nothing else.